On June 9th, 1918, National Park Superintendent DeWitt Rayburn announced something that seemed completely crazy at the time. He announced that the National Park guide staff would include Alma Wagen, the first woman to work on the mountain. Alma grew up in Minnesota in the late 1800s, where she would go to her grandparents' farm and climb windmills. She called those windmills her mountains. It wasn't until she graduated from university in 1903 with a teaching certificate when she moved to the Northwest and began her climbing, primarily in the summers, in earnest. Of course, at the time, we're talking about kind of where trekking and climbing meet, this kind of mountaineering-oriented thing. And in that realm, Alma did all kinds of cool things. She spent a season in Seward, Alaska, climbing all the peaks there. She spent another season in Glacier National Park, hitting tons of peaks there. She climbed over the Olympic Mountains. She did a tour that started at Mount St. Helens, climbed Mount St. Helens, climbed Mount Adams and Mount Hood, a 240-mile trip, all on foot, hitting each peak as she went. At one point, she circumnavigated Mount Rainier above tree line, climbing the Emmons Glacier to finish off the trip. On the Mount Hood trip, she actually got injured. A rock hit her in the lower back, and they needed to evacuate her. So they did what any reasonable early 1900s climber would do. They used a guy named Elijah Coleman as a toboggan. They put Alma on top and dragged her down the mountain on top of this dude down to what is now Timberline Lodge. As noted, she started her career in the National Park in 1918, initially guiding on the Nisqually Glacier, up Pinnacle Peak, just up to Camp Muir. But as World War I began to heat up and a lot of the men left for the war, she was assigned more and more complicated things, including guiding the Rockefeller Party. And then she kept getting accolades, more and more accolades, newspaper articles, interviews, what have you, and her star really began to rise. In 1922, she began to guide in Yosemite in the spring, but would come back to Rainier in the summers. Eventually, she got married and retired from guiding. She told one interviewer, "Mountain climbing is the greatest sport in the world. There's no better fun than that of sliding hundreds of feet on the snow in midsummer while the rest of the world is sweltering below you, or to know the wonderful exhilaration of viewing range on range of mountain peaks for hundreds of miles that rise in tinted ranks against the sky." Today, maybe 30% of guides on rock, ice, snow, and on skis identify as women. Alma had a real impact. She was the first. When Alma was young, she was climbing windmills, and she was told it's not pretty for girls to climb windmills. And she spent a good chunk of her career trying to prove that windmill climbing, mountain climbing was pretty, and that there was a place for her in this world of guiding. And there is a place now because of people like her in the world of guiding for women on rock, snow, ice, on skis, everywhere. Pretty or not, there's a place. And it's a good place, and we're happy to see the continued growth of equity in the guiding world.